Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. On this video, I'm going to be looking at January 2021 for the sign of Cancer. And the first thing I want to say is don't judge the rest of the year by what happens in January. It's not that it's a bad month at all. It's more that a lot is going on, and it's like we have to process and distill what's gone before, especially towards the end of 2020. And in order to do that, we need a good month. And then we can really start in February when we do have a very different flavor and character to the year. So let me bring up my little horoscope, which I like to do so that we can see what I'm talking about. Okay, there it is. And I think you can see immediately that we've got a lot of stuff going on over here. Now, this is the sign of Cancer, and that's where we begin a solar chart right here. And this is where all the planets are gathered at the moment, and they have a lot to do with relationships. In fact, we're going to be talking about little else but relationships as we go through this video. Now, one of the things that I may have mentioned in a previous video is that because all the planets are sort of quite close together here in this part of the horoscopic circle, there is a kind of intensity about life. And that can either just feel intense, you feel under pressure, there's a lot going on, or it could be that there are just many things happening in different areas of your life, and also in terms of what's going on the world stage. And that does make for a period where it seems that every day something else is changing or happening, and it can make us feel anything but relaxed. And we can see that sort of nicely portrayed, the intensity, by this cluster here. But we're going to be talking about this part, the seventh house of relationships. We're going to see the sun moving through this part of the horoscope, and Venus is going to move through here, and Mercury. So we've got the personal planets here and a new moon as well. And it means so many different things for different Cancerians. It depends on the relationship status quo for you, your age, whatever else is going on in your life. It's not an identikit picture, but the weather is identical. How you deal with the astrological influences is very much up to you and your circumstances. What I like very much about January for you is that on the 8th of January, Venus, the planet of love, comes into the area of relationships, and it's going to work its way through all the way through the month. So this is a particularly important month for forming new relationships, for making decisions related to established relationships, and for generally finding people who you enjoy being with and who seem to like you. And if you've got work projects, or you're looking for work, or you're looking for supporters and backers, then January is the time when they'll start coming out of the woodwork, because Venus encourages those good vibes from people. Now, that having been said, there's a lot of other stuff going on. We've got Pluto here at the very end of the sign of Capricorn. So it's particularly affecting you if you've got a birthday somewhere around the 15th, 16th, the 17th of July. And Pluto is all about elimination and transformation. So a lot of things are ending and going, and new things are coming in, which can, of course, mean relationships. There are relationships on the way out, but there are also relationships on their way in. And one of the ways we really transform ourselves is through our interaction with other people, especially those people we fall in love with and we form those kind of relationships with, because we're really exposed, and the journey we make with that person changes us as well. And if you're in that birthday group, then certainly transformation is the name of the game, and that is going to be evoked by a relationship. A little bit before, two things. I mentioned Venus coming into this area on the 8th of the month, but on the 5th of the month, Mercury hooks up to Pluto. So this is a time of discussion. It's a time of exchange of feelings and exchange of ideas. And throughout the month, we're going to be looking at the 14th of the month, And then again on the 28th of the month, Pluto is being triggered by a personal planet. So I like to look at the whole month in a way as being this transformational period. But those dates in particular make it a little bit more intense. Endings and beginnings, that's another good word for Pluto. And when we think about the end of the year, Christmas and New Year, this is often a time we really think about our relationships. We either make a decision to be with that person, or we make a decision to say, no more, it's over. Christmas seems to emphasize the good things and the bad things. So as we come into January, there are a lot of Cancerians going to be making decisions after having discussions with their significant other about the future of your relationship. Now, it doesn't mean that things can't be worked out and worked through, but you may need the help of a therapist, someone to guide you by the hand. But of course, also, if you are ready to take your relationship, notch it up a bit, so you're ready to get married or move in together or start a family or something like that, then this Mercury Pluto is an important time to discuss things. But I have to say, really, with Pluto, there's often something secretive, something that's under the carpet that nobody wants to talk about, and that may have to be talked about. And you really do need to talk about the fears and worries, things that you sense in a relationship, get them out in the open. And although I seem to be focusing on close, intimate relationships, it could be a business relationship, a working relationship, even a friendship. And you need to get down to the core of that relationship in order to be able to transform it. And of course, in the process, you're transformed. This new moon occurs on the 13th of January, and new moons begin new cycles for whichever area of the chart they're in. So we're looking at a new cycle beginning for relationships that will have some kind of ending on the full moon in Cancer, which will be in the July period. So I'll talk about that a little more, maybe even in my next audio, and certainly in my next video. So this idea that you're starting out on a new cycle is important, whether that new cycle means, we've made a decision, we don't want to be together anymore. So the new cycle is working your way to a different kind of relationship with that person. But it can be, again, this idea of a new beginning for two of you. And that's in there too. Remember, there are a lot of Cancerians, and you're all going to be at very different stages of your relationship life. The other thing I want to talk about is the month as a whole, which seems to be in two halves. Because up until about that new moon period, the 14th, 15th of the month, it's very much about the deeper layers of relating. It's about elimination. It's about getting rid of what you don't need, getting rid of clutter so that you're clean and clear. And you can do that in the real world by tidying up a cupboard or the house or your office or wherever is appropriate, and allowing that space that is now cleared to fill with new things. And of course, that's a metaphor for what that Mercury, Pluto, Venus, Pluto, Sun, Pluto conjunction is all about. But why things change around the 19th is the Sun begins its journey through the 8th house. This is an area which has to do with money and financial relationships. So certainly by the 19th of the month, you want to be looking at your financial empire. Is it time to do your taxes? Is it time to have conversations with banks and credit card companies? Is it time to talk to your partners about money? Because, at some point on the new moon in Aquarius, you will want to start a new financial cycle for yourselves. But it will demand some painful talks, I think. But they've got to be done. In order to start afresh and to have healthy money relations, you need to really look at it very much in its reality. But also, why I'm pointing out the 19th as being quite a dividing line between what's gone before and what comes after, we've got a Mars-Uranus conjunction, which will be applying a few days before its exactitude on the 20th. But let's look at what the 20th is. In America, it's Inauguration Day. a new administration comes in, and Uranus, of course, is the groundbreaking planet. Everything changes on Uranus. And we really see that reflected by the idea of a new administration coming into the White House. However, I have to say, Uranus is controversial. And just kind of by the by, when I looked at Meghan and Harry getting married on a Mars Uranus kind of influence, I thought, oh dear, that's going to be very controversial. And of course, within a couple of years, they were out of the royal family. So often with a Mars Uranus, you won't be able to chart the course of whatever happens and is set in motion at that time. So look carefully in your own life and what's going on around you, and know that things aren't going to be quite as they seem on that date. I do think there's a lot of unrest at this time. So you might find in your life there are lots of arguments and people having different opinions about things. And it seems you're forever trying to negotiate or keep the peace. And of course, that will be happening on the world stage as well, because there will be a lot of strife and a lot of arguments going on. The end of the month is also interesting because of this configuration here. This is the sun close to Jupiter, and it's the opposite point to the moon in Leo. Yes, this is a full moon in Leo on the 28th of January, and the Sun-Jupiter conjunction is exact on the 29th, but it's exact in the very, very early hours of the morning, so it might as well be the 28th. I think there is great opportunity in this full moon, certainly the opportunity to start afresh. That's definitely in there. Remember, that's near the end of the month. And I'm talking about January being a month of processing and distillation. So we get this idea that on this Sun-Jupiter conjunction, the full moon opposition that Jupiter, that we're starting afresh after this. It's a time of opportunity. And I want to say to you, see that opportunity in an obstacle, because it will be there. And the reason I talk about obstacles is that we've got Saturn in our midst at this point, and that's often, it's a hard planet to work with, Saturn. It often, well, it's about reality, but often that reality is a harsh reality. And I want to swing back here again to the idea of Uranus being very strong towards the end of the month and from the mid-month to the end of the month, really, and its role as the awakener. That there are a lot of things around the second half of the month, the events that happen to you that are meant to awaken you, whether that's awakening you to a new state of affairs or the way things really are, or awakening you to your potential. That's very important. So let's look here finally. On the 30th of January, Mercury turns retrograde, and I'm going to come back in the room with that, because I know we all groan about retrograde Mercury. Everything slows up. We can't get from A to B without going all the way through the alphabet. And often we don't get messages and people don't talk to us. And it's a little bit of a nightmare. But there's a good purpose in a retrograde Mercury, because we get to look back. We get to think, I did that wrongly. I better put that to rights. Or, let's rework this. Let's revisit this. And sometimes people come back into our lives and situations come back into our lives. So there's always something good about a retrograde Mercury. So that's all I have to talk about for your month ahead. But there is one other thing I've got to say, and that is to wish you a very happy new year. And of course, I'll be with you all the way through 2021 on these videos and on my audios and in my weekly forecasts. Bye for now.